Okay, if anyone has a question up on the deck, if you want to ask now, I'll take a couple questions before I start if you have any questions. Yes. Where do our bears hibernate? When you walk back, have you been on okay, you'll be on a tour soon. Ted hibernates in his own chalet, in his den that we provide for him. Lucky and Holly generally will hibernate in the bunkers. You'll see those also. Tasha is the only bear that digs her own den, and that den is about 1.5 acres behind the falls into the fence. So we do allow them to dig their own den. There's not much way you can stop it. Any other questions here? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start answering the questions. The first question, do you have a favorite memory or story or about any of our bears? Of course, I have many stories, and they're too lengthy to tell, but I will write you one of them when I answer your question online. Second question, as the temperatures drop, will the bears get more straw? There's been some unforeseen issues here with some of the staff having deaths in the family, and so the straw will not be coming until next week. We have kind of improvised by giving Lucky some leaves, so he's happy raking those. And as we had visitors here yesterday, watch him slowly rake some leaves into his den. He didn't quite get it all done until after they left, but we had a bear visitor outside the fence, so Lucky and Holly's complete attention was on the bear outside the fence. So he was just not working as diligently as he should have to get those leaves in, but they are currently all in, and we gave him another bag just about an hour ago. Have you seen Tasha raking leaves into her den? We are not back there. Sometimes we get too busy to go all the way back to look at her den. She has taken out more dirt. The mound is probably another 18 inches high that she had from last year. So she is removing more dirt and more rocks. And I believe she's digging down and into the side of the hill that she is currently working on. Next question, I think I just answered that. Have you had any wild bear visitors? Well, we did last night. Lucky and Holly were both very focused on the bear. The bear is not afraid of our bears. We tried to clap our hands. It moved about 10 feet away and just watched us. As we were going by about an hour later, after we had dinner, the bear was out in front of the gates in front of the building, and I honked my car horn, and we chased it, and it ran into the woods and then came back and looked at us. So, yes, there is a bear out there. You'll probably see it if you go out on the trail. If you don't want it anywhere near you, just clap your hands or ask for a black bag, and we'll give it to you. When Ted goes to the viewing area or back to his enclosure, someone usually walks with him. Why? Well, the first reason is we call and walk with all of our bears, not just Ted. The next reason is it reemphasizes voice and action for myself and the interns and educators to all the bears, that we are right there with them. The last reason is Ted sometimes goes visiting, which is okay, but then he kind of gets tired and rests, and then we have to go find him and work him back to his own den. It's okay if he sits on the mound and eats grass, that's fine, but when he goes back in the back visiting, he gets in that maze of trails back there, and sometimes it tires him out and he has to rest. Then Judy and I have to go in to find him. So it's always interesting to go on a walkabout out there, and when we call his name, he tells us where he is, and then we go to him and walk him back to his den. So that's one reason that we kind of help Ted out on his way back to his den or to the front of the building, the visiting viewing area. What happens if Tasha dens before the other bears? Well, we've talked about that many times in the past couple of weeks. I'm hoping that that doesn't happen, but if it does, I'm sure Holly will have something to say about her being in that den. And then we'll start over again with the bear behaviors that we've had in the past. Not looking forward to that, and hope that we can get everything resolved when the straw comes. Do I think Holly has accommodated herself to Lucky's bunker. Well, Holly checked it out, but I think she needs a little bit more straw before she decides on where she's going to go. Has Ted ever denned with another bear? Yes, he denned at least 3 times with Lucky when Lucky was younger. I would like to know what you think the relationship is between Lucky and Holly. Well, it's a normal relationship. And they've had this, they go through this every summer, every spring, every fall. In the spring, she allows him to play with her, or she plays with him. During mating season, which is the month of June, she rejects him or accepts him, whichever way it goes for him. He does not do too well with rejection, and so that's where his pouty behavior begins. But she goes about her business wanting Ted. Now, we do keep our bears apart because we don't want them mating. But right after mating season ends, she usually allows Lucky to mate with her one time. Lucky is a neutered or castrated male, and so we know that he's not going to do any harm if he does. So I hope that answers your question. She does usually let him mate with her one time. As I said, on this is a family-friendly version, and there's usually a little more to it than that. The next question, Holly is older. You've mentioned that she has an attitude, which she does. Can you give an example? I can probably give a dozen. Holly has matured into a beautiful adult female bear that would treat bears as she treats our bears if she were in the wild. She would pick a mate, as she did with Ted. She would reject the pursuee, is Lucky. And if all else fails, she would mate with him maybe later, but just as she would a bear would in the wild, Lucky didn't win this year. She would not share her territory with another female, just as she doesn't want to share her territory, which is the 2.5 acres here, with Tasha. So that begins to be a problem when it comes to mating season. She would den by herself or with her cubs, which we hope doesn't ever happen here, but she would den by herself. Because of the social aspect of our bear behavior, she usually will tolerate denning with Lucky. We'll see how that works out for her this year and for Lucky. Usually he says no and she moves in and that's it. She has likes and dislikes. She doesn't like some of our educators. And fortunately for all of our interns, she's accepted of them, but some of the staff she doesn't. When she doesn't like somebody, she slaps the ground and kind of stalks them. So they know exactly what they're doing, and they know if she likes them or if she doesn't. One of her least favorite words is no, and if you want to see attitude when I tell her no, she will usually scream in my face. That's usually a typical female. Any version, human or bear. And for our interns, Ted has now disappeared on the mound if you want to work with him. And the last question, are there sunflower seeds in the enclosure for the bear seed? I don't believe there are. If they would be, they'd be over in the clover mound area. They do not eat the sunflowers. They only eat the seeds after they're ripe. Do I see similarities in Holly as to Honey? I see Holly as a formidable adult female who is the established matriarch here, just like Honey was. As for attitude, she is similar, but with likes and dislikes, just like Honey had, both bears and people. But Holly is much smaller than Honey. Holly is full grown and is under 200 pounds less than Honey would have ever been. The last question, is Ted still on antibiotics for an abscessed tooth? Yes, he's on antibiotics. We never have not determined whether it's a tooth or just an abscess on his chin. So that cannot be determined. We've talked to our veterinarian, and unless we do a lot of extensive research into that, which we are not going to put Ted through at 22 years old, we are just going to treat it as an abscess. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and the folks here that have been courteous enough to listen to me. And we're going to go put our bear in now. Thank you all. We'll see you for our last broadcast tomorrow at 12:30. Thank you all.